a hearty and healthy welcome. Hello there to all the manly men out there. You're listening to the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. And where else would you be listening to a manly show of this type? Only on KOWS station 92.5 FM. Yes, read it and weep. 92.5 FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda. You're listening to the voice of West Sonoma County on 92.5 FM, KOWS, LP Occidental, bringing you the best, and I do mean the best with a capital B, alternative music and community affairs programs. This is the voice. Yes, we are the voice. Free speech, no bull. That's what we're all about. All right, join the herd and be heard. Ooh, I like that. Someone write that down. All right. As always, going to bring you the best in Irish music, young and old, hip and not so hip, traditional and contemporary. A lot of syllables in that word. And today we're going to be talking on the Celtic Coach Radio Show. We're going to be talking about stress. Ah, yes, stress. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Now, I was thinking about stress during the week, and I don't have to think about stress because it pretty much follows me wherever I go. Any of you out there that have that problem? Stress follows you wherever you go. It's like a jacket that you don't put on. It's just a jacket that you have on, but you don't actually put it on. It seems to just show up like a bad check, whenever you don't want it to. All right, we're going to be talking about stress today. Yeah, now, stress is one of those things we're going to be talking about in terms of emotional stress, mental stress, and also I'm going to be sharing some tips and tools from my own powerful coaching training. I'm a life coach and I also train. I'm a trainer of life coaches. And so I'm going to be sharing some tools and some processes that we use in coaching, the art and science of coaching that we use to support people to create a whole lot less stress. Now, this is not about managing your stress, right? That's like stress management. That's like trying to take a rodeo bull for a walk. Sure, you'll get the exercise, but it's a little dangerous. You know what I mean? Men, if you're out there and you're thinking, gosh, I can't commit to anything, think about it this way. If you want to break up with something, break up with stress. Yes. Did you know that stress spelled backwards is desserts? I didn't know that. I just read that this morning. I thought that was pretty interesting. It's interesting. I've seen in my own life where some mornings I wake up and I say, good morning, world, let the adventure begin. And other mornings I get up and I say, good morning, world, let the stress begin. Has anyone out there ever been in that type of an experience? I'm sure you have. I mean, stress, 90% of the planet, supposedly, I don't know, I just read this in statistics, are stressed out. So stress is kind of like that. It's kind of like the friend you try to avoid, you know what I mean? But they just keep coming back no matter what you do. Yeah. I found the best cure for stress. This is the number one cure, and it cures it every time. Sleep. When all else fails, just go to sleep. Let me test your memory for a moment. If you want to test your memory, try this. Try remembering what you were stressed about 1 year ago. Can't think about it, but at the time, it was very important, wasn't it? I wrote a letter to stress this morning. I said, "Dear stress, you're fired," and I hope to God stress was listening, because again, it's like an employee that you fire, but they come back. I don't know what it is. It's interesting. I was thinking about stress, and of course, there's the problem, right? Because stress is caused by... Now, people say, oh, it's your thinking that causes stress. And you know what I found, gentlemen? That it's not actually your thinking that causes your stress. Now, stay with me on this. Stress is caused by your thinking about your thinking. So you're thinking about your thinking. Don't believe me? Do you stress when you're asleep? No. Why not? Because you're not thinking. Stress is caused by thinking about your thinking. You start thinking blah, 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 and then you start thinking about blah, 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 blah. Why am I thinking about blah, blah, blah? And then you start this whole little wheel. We're going to talk about that today from an inside-out point of view. Most people try to manage their stress from the outside in, but we're going to talk about stress from the inside out. Now, if you're ever feeling stressed and you want to have a gut-wrenching laugh, go into the bathroom and look at your face when you're stressed. Have you ever done that? It will switch your stress in a moment. Now, I've also had the experience that it does the quite opposite. It makes me even more sad or depressed. Yeah. I reckon, you know what I reckon we should do is we should handle stress like a cat. Disinterested. You ever notice a cat? They're just disinterested. It doesn't matter. Or you could handle your stress like a dog. You can run after it. You could play with it. You could pee on it. And when you're done, just walk away from it. I saw a quote there the other day, and it kind of shook me a little bit. On the top of it, it said a quote from God, and then it said, God won't give you anything you can't handle. And then there was a picture of Jesus nailed to the cross. And I thought, God's got a sick sense of humor. My doctor asked me, he says to me the other day, he says, Dermot, do you want a stress test? And I said, sure. And he handed me a mirror. How do you handle your stress? It's really interesting. The doctor says to me, Dermot, how are you handling your stress? And I said, like a pot of gold. I hide it in an imaginary place far, far away where no one else will ever see it. And I said, doctor, I said, can you give me something for my stress? And you know what he did? He gave me back the mirror. He handed me the mirror again. Yeah, it wasn't very funny, I have to say. I've had, when I think about stress in my life, there's one time in my life when I had no stress. Only one. Now, granted, I was in a coma at the time, but it was a stress-free life for like a month. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. Eckhart Tolle, you know the guy, the Be Here Now guy? He says stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there. My only question is, where's there? They say that stress doesn't kill you, and I agree. It's the heart attack that kills you. It's not the stress. I was thinking about positive things for stress. Like they say one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. So I got one this morning. I'm not going to work today. Totally changed my whole day. It was wonderful. My girlfriend said to me, before I had this epiphany, my girlfriend says to me, hey, have a great day. And I did. I went back to bed. My one time I was in work there last week, and the boss came up to me, and me and him, we don't really see eye to eye, and he says to me, Dermot, have a great day. So I went home, and I had a great day. It was wonderful. It was really nice advice. I appreciated it a lot. I won't lie to you. I've had a lot of stress in my life, and all of it is self-inflicted. Yeah, no question about it. I have to own that one, I went to Australia last year, and my boomerang was really depressed because when I threw it, it never came back. Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you, I have this little cat at home, I call him Jimmy. And I can always tell, or actually I can't tell, if my cat is depressed or just lazy. Any of you guys have cats like that or pets? Now I know my dog is depressed because when I come home, he acts like the cat. So he must be depressed. There's no question. There's no question about it. My little dog, I came home one time and he looked up at me, like straight into my eye. You ever have a dog do that? He looked at me with eyes that said, "Oh, what's the point?" And I knew then and there that he must be a little bit depressed. Dogs will always give you that sign. If they don't meet you at the house with the dog wagging, the tail wagging and the big smile, there's something wrong. Your dog could be depressed. So we're going to be talking about stress today and how to get rid of it. I don't know that you can. Again, going to sleep does help. But we're going to talk about stress, tools and processes for noticing when you're stressed, when you're not stressed. And I'm going to have some really wonderful stuff. Now, I took a lot of this information. I used to teach a class way back in the day called The Art and Science of Happiness. And I taught a lot of this stuff, emotional, mental, spiritual, stress-free life. Or balance, I called it back then, the art and science of being happy. And so I'm going to share a lot of those things that I shared in some of those workshops with you today. And I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. If you don't, well, then you're going to see me very depressed. But like the pot of gold, I'll hide it so no one else sees it. All right, welcome to the Celtic Coach. You're listening to the Celtic Coach 1 to 3 every Friday on KOWS 92.5 FM, or you can go to our website, listen to the show live at KOWS.FM. F for Frank and M for Matilda. Welcome to the show. We got a great show. It's all about how do we let go of the stress. That and a whole lot more. All right, welcome. You're listening to KOWS 92.5 FM in Occidental. We are, of course, the alternative music and community affairs program, the voice of West Sonoma County. You're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Live every Friday from 1 to 3 on KOWS.FM. F for Frank and M for Matilda. Yes, special effects included with no extra charge. All right, welcome everyone. Today's topic on the Celtic Coach Manly Show is all about stress. Ah, yes. That thing we call stress. Now, it's very interesting when we think about stress. Let me tell you what the kind of the dictionary says about what stress is. Stress, they say, is stress occurs when your pressure exceeds your perceived ability to cope. In other words, you're in a situation that you don't want to be in. You would rather be there than here. You know what I mean? Now, they say you could experience stress from your environment, from your body, from your dog, from your cat, from your thoughts. Up to 80% of today's health problems are related to stress. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. Up to 80% of the health problems today. Now, I remember reading a long time ago that all disease is created in the mind. Dis-ease is created in the mind. And only that I have a mind, I found that to be absolutely true. What is worry? Now, the difference between stress and worry. So worry is a little different. Worry is caused when you look at a problem or a situation over and over and over again without creating a solution for it. That's very interesting now. So stress is a perception. It's a perceived ability to, I can't cope with what's happening in the moment. Now, this is perceived. Sometimes stress is real, but most of the stress in my life never actually happened, believe it or believe it not. Now, I've had stressful situations in my life, of course. We all have. I'm not saying that it's all in the mind, but yet I am. But stress, of course, can be also perceived as a real thing. You know, somebody comes up with a gun and puts it in your face, you're going to have some stress. No question about it. But worry, they say, is caused when you look at a problem or something that's going on in your life, and you just keep looking at it and looking at it and looking at it without actually creating a solution for it. Another way of thinking about worry is worry causes stress, because if you keep looking at something a certain way, if you keep asking yourself the same question, you'll get the same answer. So I'm going to be sharing today in our show some tools, some ways to ask yourself some different questions. So I'm a life coach and a trainer of life coaches, and one of the things that I stress in the trainings are when you ask a client a different question, you get a different answer. Now, it's very interesting. On my walk over here to the radio show today, and by the way, hello to all the peacemakers over there on Sebastopol in Maine, and they were out there and getting people to cheer and think happy thoughts and so on and so on, and it was beautiful, really nice, a wonderful way to do something for the planet and for the world and for yourself too. And I came up to the traffic light, and the guy noticed that I had, my bag, and I had my roll with all my papers in. He said, where are you going? He says, you're looking very creative. And I said, I'm going to the KOWS radio station. I've got a radio show I'm talking today about stress. And he said, really? He says, the kids today, they got a lot of stress. They're smoking, they're drinking, they're doing drugs, and it's all because of stress. And then he said to me, I've been trying to get these kids to stop doing that stuff for years. And then he turned to me with all seriousness and he said, how do you get people to change? And I thought, what a great question. And I thought about it for a moment. Instead of just giving him some, smart proverbial answer that popped into my brain, I thought about it for a second. And I said to him, you can't. You can't get people to change. And with that, he kind of looked at me a little surprised, And I said, now, what I've found I'm a life coach, and I said, what I've found in my years of coaching is that you can't get people to change. I tried to change my family for years. I'd send them books, CDs, tapes when they were available, record players, books on tapes and all sorts of self-development stuff, everything from Deepak Chopra to Tony Robbins. And when I went home one time, I remember seeing in one of my sister's drawers, I saw all the tapes and all the books and everything that I'd sent, and they didn't look like they'd even been opened. And it was that it dawned on me. It's like, Dermot, you can't force people to change. You can't get people to change. Now, having said that, the answer I gave the man was, I said, you can't. But then I followed up with, I said, however, what I found is that in my coaching, that I can support people to make change by asking them a question they usually don't ask themselves. By asking them a question they usually don't ask themselves. Because when you ask yourself a question, you get an answer. If you keep asking yourself the same old question, that's worry. Right? That's what craziness is, asking yourself the same question over and over again and expecting a different answer. But in coaching, the great thing about coaching is that I'm not you. I'm not the client. And so I can ask the client questions the client has never asked themselves before. And which is one of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute. I'm just prefacing it here with a story. And I said, when you ask somebody a deeper question, they get a deeper answer. When you ask someone a great question, they usually give themselves a great answer. If you ask someone a stupid question, they usually give you a stupid answer. And so I said, if you want to change people, I said, you can't, but ask them a better question. And they, through that question, will change themselves because they'll have an insight. And with that insight, usually, typically, not always, but with an insight comes a choice, a decision. And with a decision comes an action. And with an action comes change. It's an inside-out thing. We want the world to change for us. What's going on out there is causing me stress. What's going on out there worries me. What Donald Trump is doing worries me. What the economy is doing worries me. It causes me stress. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know there's ladies listening there today. A few ladies from Ireland, a few from Scotland. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to the show. The ladies like to listen in to find out what all the secrets we know. We don't know anything, ladies. We're just trying to figure it out day by day, one day at a time. What they found is, gosh, now I've totally lost my my train of thought. Oh my gosh. All right. Where was I? All right. So we were talking about worry. And this thing of asking yourself the same old question over and over and over again. So what we can do is ask ourselves a different question. We will get a different answer. We're going to talk about that in the session today because it's really very important in terms of stress in the world. Oh, yes. Now I got it. We're talking about an outside in. When we talk about things outside of our control, and by the way, everything is outside of your control. The only things that you control, if you're lucky, is your thought, your word, and action. If you can control your thoughts, then you're like Superman or super brain. If you control your words, you're doing pretty well. If you control your actions, biting your nails, drinking, smoking, whatever it might be, then you're enlightened. So, but they're the only things that you can really control. But where we get into trouble is we try to control everything outside of ourselves. Mostly. Not always, but mostly. We try to control Donald Trump. We try to control the economy. We try to control, everything that's going on outside of ourselves in our lives. Now, this may sound a little harsh, but the very reverse is true. The only thing that you can control are the inside. You have no control on the outside world, except, as I said, for thought, word, and action. If you're lucky. And I do about 5% of thought, word, and action. That's actually my own. They, whoever they may be, say that 95 to 98% of our ideas and opinions and judgments and suggestions are not our own. We've picked them up along the way. That's a lot of picking upping, I have to say. So what we're going to talk today is about how do we look at stress from an inside-out. Think of it as an inside-out revolution or revelation, an inside-out revelation. Instead of looking at the world from the outside in, because if we can't change the world, and you've heard the old adage, the only way to change the world, is to change yourself. And I honestly believe that's true, because I've gone and did the whole thing of trying to change my family and all that, and it didn't work. And I got that insight that, hey, Dermot, it doesn't work. Now, does that mean you can't inspire change? Absolutely. You work on yourself, you become de-stressed, you become more peaceful, more patient, more loving, more curious, more accepting, more compassionate. You'll change people around you. People will be changed just by being in your vibration and just in your energy, in your environment. They will be changed. No question about it. Hearth Math have a whole lot of studies on this thing they call the torus, which is the torus of energy that comes from people. And just being in that proximity or in that vicinity of that will change people. You don't believe me? Do you ever walk into a room where there's a lot of like unhappy people or negative or angry people, and you find yourself doing two things. Either you start to become a little bit, annoyed, or you leave. The same is true. You ever walk into a room where people are all happy and you might be bummed, you've had a bad morning or something, but you walk into the room and 5 or 10 minutes later, you're feeling better. You haven't done anything. You haven't changed anything. You've just simply been in the room. That's the power of changing yourself from the inside out. But a lot of people try to change the world, and it's not possible. Just look at history. History will tell you that it's not possible. But we can change ourselves. That we do have control over. Whoever the big cheese, whoever the big honcho, Bob upstairs is, pretty smart guy. He decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let these people pretend that they actually have some control over the world. And they'll batter their heads against the wall, trying to change the world for millennia. And then one day they'll wake up and say, oh my gosh, the only thing I can change is myself. And that will change the world. Thank you, God, by the way. And that will change the world. And this is what we're moving into in the world. People look at the world and they say, gosh, the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket. And it is, for a very good reason. It's pushing us, motivating us, forcing us at times to start to look at the world from an inside-out point of view. Because if it's true, and many people will tell you, dead and buried, that they try to change the world from the outside in, it didn't work. Now, there's a whole field of coaching by Michael Neal called The Inside Out Revolution, and he talks a lot about this. So if you're listening on the radio, you want to look into it. Look up the 3 principles or any kind of coaching by Michael Neal. I'm going to have him come on the show and talk to us about the 3 principles, because I really think they're that important. They've made a big difference in my life, and I'm sure they will definitely, in terms of being stressed about things that we can't control, about illusory things, imaginary things, things that are made up. Most of our stress is made up. Now, that's not to say we don't have bills. I have bills. I have car bills, I have this bills, I have that bills, I have all sorts of bills. I have things that cause me worry, that cause me stress. Now, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I would stay months obsessing about stuff. And now it's a couple of hours. That's progress. There's no such thing as perfection, but you can certainly move forward with a little bit of progress. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about stress. We've talked a little bit about worry. All right, stress occurs when the pressure exceeds your perceived ability to cope. When you think, hey, I can't deal with this right now. My job, my wife, the kids, whatever it might be. I'm stressed out. And worry is caused when we look at something over and over again and we don't create a solution for it. We just keep asking ourselves the same question. That's why coaching is so powerful. At least, I believe in my heart and soul that it is that powerful in terms of creating change from the inside out with people. Asking people different questions, you get a different answer. Okay, so let's get into a little tool here before we jump on. How do you stop the worry habit? Well, here's a tool that I use often, and it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I use it with my clients, and I use it on myself a lot just to get out of my head. By the way, if you're stressed out, a lot of the times it's because you're carrying way too much beep, beep, beep in your head. 4-letter word. I'm not going to say it on our radio. This is our clean show. But you're carrying too much of that nonsense in your head. And one of the things you can do at night is if you go to bed and you're worried about something, you're stressed about something, write it down on paper. Write exactly what it is. I am stressed about, and just don't write a big long story. Just write, I am stressed about having no money for the rent this month, or whatever it might be. Write it down, get it out of your head. Minimum, you'll sleep a heck of a lot better at night. Now, here's the second thing that's going to happen. When you write it down, get it out of your head, what happens is your subconscious mind starts to go to work. Now, when you go to sleep, say, hey, I'm stressed about having no money, don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm open to some ideas. When you go to sleep, your subconscious mind will start to work on some ideas for you. Don't ask me how it works. I absolutely do not know how it works, but I know that it works. So try it out. Email me here at the show at thecelticcoach@gmail.com. And if you want to know more about coaching, you can email me at thecelticcoach@gmail.com. My website's going to be up soon. I'll tell you guys all about that in a bit. But thecelticcoach@gmail.com. You can give me an email. Let me know if you're interested in coaching, and I'll get in contact with you. All right. Love to be of service if I can. All right. Here's a little tool that I use. I already shared one, but here's a tool that I use a lot with my clients, and it has profound effects on the level of stress. It decreases the level of stress in a heartbeat. So here it is. How to stop the worry habit. It's a five little part process, but very, very simple, very powerful. So write it down. Grab a pen, grab a paper. And here's the first question you ask yourself. You're stressed about something, you're worrying about something. Here's what you do. First of all, you ask, what is the problem? Now, don't go into a big story, the story that you tell your friends every time you tell them about your problem. Oh, I got this problem, and let me tell you all about it. And you tell them all about the story for about 20 minutes, and then they get off the phone and they're exhausted. And they hope to God you don't call for about another 20 months, right? Here's what you do. Pen and paper. You write down what is the problem, and you write it very specifically, very simply, very clearly, and short. Don't write a big story. We're not looking for an autobiographical study of your exploration of your problem. Just write down what is the problem. I have no money to pay the rent this month. That's the problem. Now, we'll go with that one. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is that I got to go and tell my landlord that I don't have the rent and that he needs to wait an extra week or 2 weeks and there'll be late fees, which I've had in my life many, many, many times, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, many times. Or the landlord might say to you, they might kick you out. Okay, I may lose the place where I'm living. All right. That's the worst case scenario. I may have to be thrown out of my apartment. That's the worst case scenario. Again, keep it short and sweet and to the point. Don't go into a big story about it. Tell yourself the truth. Tell yourself, how bad it is, but don't tell yourself that it's worse than you think it actually is. Just tell yourself this is what it is. Logically, men. Think of the logical brain. That's easy for men, right? I'm not asking you to share emotions here, men. I'm asking you to simply talk about the problem in a very logical, step-by-step way. All right. Okay. Now, so what is the problem? Write it down. Then what's the worst case scenario? So the problem is I got no money for the rent at the end of the month. Worst case scenario is I might get kicked out. Then you ask yourself, what is at least one solution? At least one. What's one possible solution to this problem? Okay, well, maybe I got to move in with my sister. Or maybe I got to, move into, sleep in my car for a month till I save up the money. Or maybe I got to borrow the money for the rent. Or, maybe I've got to sell, all my clothes, or the dog, or the cat that's not interested in anything. Get rid of the cat first. I love cats. Don't get me wrong. Get rid of the cat if you can. Whatever you need to do, you write it down. Okay, so what's one possible solution? Possible. Now play with the solutions, gentlemen. You know what the number one thing with worry is that when we get into worry, we get into this spiral, and it's very hard to stop the tape. It's very hard to get out of the worry. So write down in a very logical manner. You're a man. That should be easy. What is one possible solution for this? Now, you can get crazy. Put your feet flat on the floor. By the way, when you're thinking about solutions to problems, do not cross your legs, do not cross your arms, and do not put your head down and your hand on your chin. You know the way you do that and you start to think, oh God, everything's going to hell. What you do is put your feet flat on the floor, straighten your back. Yes, that thing that's behind you. Straighten it up, sit in a chair, put your feet flat on the floor, and just look up and out. Now, what does that do? Scientifically proven. You got 3 brains, by the way. I know you think you only got 1. You got 3 brains and many voices. But when you lift your chin and you look up and out, kind of like you're just looking above the horizon, it connects you to your neocortex. But when you look down, you're connected to your reptilian, which is the fight or flight, which basically says, nothing in my life works. When you look up to the neocortex, that's the creative, the solution part of your brain, the neocortex, right? Cerebral cortex, frontal lobe, whatever you want to call it. And that's the part where you can start really tapping into solutions. But most people look down when they're trying to create solutions to stress or to a worry habit that they've got. So look up and out. That's a powerful process. I use that with my clients all the time. So what's the problem? What's the worst case scenario? Number 3, what's one possible solution? What's 2 possible solutions? What's a couple of possible solutions? What are some of the possible solutions? What are some of the many possible solutions? And just brainstorm all the possible ideas. Linus Pauling said the way to get a great idea is to get lots of them. So just write down all. It doesn't matter. 90% of them or 95% of them might be bogus. They might be BS. They might be rubbish. But write them down anyway. All the possible solutions that you can come up with. Stealing is not allowed, by the way. All right. Now, number 4. You ask yourself, you look at all the possible solutions, and then you say to yourself, what's the best possible solution? What's out of all of these solutions, what's the best one? And maybe you need to call someone and ask, hey, I can't pay the rent at the end of the month. I got all these solutions. I've picked out 5 or 10. I want to run them by you. Somebody who you trust, somebody who will tell you the truth, but a respectful way. Not someone who's not gonna, dump all over you, but someone who respects you and says, yeah, okay, let me listen to these and I'll tell you my honest truth. A friend is a friend when they tell you the truth. And then, so you ask, okay, what's the best solution, possible solution? And then the next thing you do is you take action. So you say to your friend, hey, this is the solution that I want to go with. I'm going to ask my mom if I can borrow whatever the thing. I'm going to ask my mom if I can borrow the money. Back up. If she says no, she doesn't have it, then I'll go to solution number 2. So you can have like 5 solutions. And then the last number 5 is to take action. You simply take action on whatever the step is. So let's review here. Tool number 1, how to stop the worry habit. This tool is powerful, everyone. Number 1, what's the problem? Write it down. Do not give yourself a story. What's the problem? I cannot pay the rent at the end of the month. Done. Period. What's the worst case scenario? I might get thrown out of my apartment. Keep it short and sweet and to the point. You've heard of KISS, right? Keep it short and simple. Keep it short and simple. Don't try to complicate it. What are all the possible solutions? Or what's one possible solution and what are some of the many possible solutions? That's number 3. Number 4, what's the best solution out of all of them? Call a friend if you need to. And number 5, commit to taking action. Take the action. If it doesn't work, then go to number 2 and do that solution. Take action. Okay? All right. The first golden rule. I like to share some golden rules in the show, and one that I used to share a lot with my clients was just suppose for a moment. It's a question that you could make this problem a little lighter. Just suppose that you could be a little bit lighter in having this problem. Just suppose that you could bring a little more ease into your life. Just suppose you could bring a little more ease into looking at this problem in a different way. Just suppose you could look at this problem in a different way. Just suppose you could look at this problem in a way that would support you to create a better outcome. Just suppose you could look at this problem in a different way that would support you to create a better outcome. You see, questions are the answers, everyone. We try to fix everything from the outside in, but the key is to go within and to find out what is going on inside and change that reaction from the inside, and then you've got something to work with. Response, not reaction, response. So let me tell you the power of positive thought. When I was teaching this class, and we're going to go for a break here in just a minute, I taught the power of a positive thought. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of thoughts. The less stress that you have in your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts about your thinking. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of thoughts about your stress. How do you want to look at this stress? How do you want to change it? How do you want to look at it differently? How do you want to experience it differently? Most people get into a habit and they can't get out of that habit. And I've been in that many times in my life. Trust me, I've suffered from depression. I had one time where I couldn't get out of bed for months. So I know what I'm talking about in terms of depression. I'm not making light of that today. Clinically, a lot of people are depressed, but there's a lot of people out there that are not. Just look at the studies from Berkeley where they took all these people and put them in front of the mirror and had them smile. Cured 95 of the 100 cases in terms of depression. Incredible. So, positive people who have practiced being positive do not have to remind themselves to be positive because they just are. They've practiced it until they've become a habit. So one way to practice or to start to lessen the stress in your life or to create more peace in your life, same difference, is to start practicing being a little more peaceful. If you want more joy in your life, start to practice, whether it's 1 minute per day standing in front of the mirror and just smiling. Whether it's going up to the computer and just clicking on it, even if you don't want to. There's times in my life I've been so depressed and miserable that I could barely get out of the bed. But it was enough I grabbed the computer and I just stuck on some jokes on the computer or some nice music. You want to be able to just soften it a little bit. And when you can soften it, then you can start to let it go. If we want to change our lives, we must be willing, gentlemen and ladies, to change our thoughts consistently and repeatedly. As Tony Robbins says, repetition is the mother of all skills. There was two guys. Let me share a little thing here, and then we're going to go. Oh, you know what? We're going to go to break. We're going to go to break. It's the top of the hour. Ah, yes, the top of the morning, and you're listening to KOWS 92.5 FM, KOWS LP Occidental. We are the voice of West Sonoma County, bringing you the best alternative music and community affairs in the whole planet. Yes, community radio, free speech, and that's no bull. That kind of sounded like a bull. It sounded more like a sheep, but it's supposed to be a bull, I think. You're listening to the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. We're here every Friday on a KOWS.FM, live on the web, 1 to 3 every Friday. And so please listen in. We got the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men. We play a lot of the best in Irish music, and we talk about men's stuff. Stuff for men. How do we support men to become more manly? That's what we're up against. All right, let's keep the music going here. We're going to play a few songs for myself and my sister. This one is called Sisters and Brothers. Enjoy.
the grass always greener on the other side? There's a patient man, he knows how to get by, but it's the madness of a woman that catches his eye. She's a good-looking woman, strong. She knows how to play him along. She's a temper that could do you wrong. It'll take a quiet man, a quiet man. It'll take a quiet man to tame my head so strong. There's a little house down by the street. It's the prettiest place that he's ever seen. There she stands in the doorway, his perfect dream. But she turns on her heels, pretends not to see him. He's a good-looking man with charm. He the wind blows high. The grass is always greener on the other side. She's a good-looking woman, strong. She knows how to play him along. He's the coolness that cuts to the bone. Take a quiet man, quiet man. He'll take a quiet man, a quiet man. He'll take a quiet man, a quiet man. He'll take a quiet man, a quiet man. It's gonna take a quiet man to tame my head so strong.
The Quiet Man, written for the movie with Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne. The Quiet Man. All righty. Okay. Now, before we continue with our show, if you just joined us, you're listening to the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS FM.FM, M for Frank, M for Matilda. Every Friday, 1 to 3, we're here, live on the web. All right, before we do that, as always, you know that there's a certain lad, a certain leprechaun that I've got to invite to the show. This is only the part of the show that he does every week. And so we're going to invite Seamus. Seamus, are you ready?
Yes, hang on a second there, but I'll be right there.
Seamus, come on now. You do this every week. You're asked to do this, and you're only doing one thing on the show, Seamus, and it's the top 11 list. So come on, get your leprechaun over here.
I'm coming, hang on a sec, I'm just finishing me soup.
Seamus, last week it was your sandwich. This week it's your soup. What's it going to be next week?
I don't know, Dermot, you have to see to find out.
All right, Seamus, come on over here now.
Alright, come on, just hang on a second, I'm coming here now.
Sit down there, Seamus, now. Make yourself at home.
Of course I will, hang on a second there. Alright, let me get that.
Hello, everyone. How's it going here now? Seamus O'Brien here with the token, I have to say the token leprechaun on the Celtic Coast Radio Show, an Irish talk show, blah, 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 just for men and all things manly. All right, I'm here with the top 11 list. All right. Here we go. I'll get into it now. As Dermot says, just get on with it. Kind of like life. Just get on with it. Here's the top 11 list of things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. All right. Number 11. Wouldn't it be great if we could stop to think and then forget to start up again? That would be nice, actually, yeah. Number 10. It's true. People with short-term memories have no stress. Gosh, it is. I have a short-term memory myself. I don't remember anything. Not even the stuff that I stress about. Number 9. As a poor Irish lad growing up, I never was stressed in bed because we couldn't afford one. Number 8. As kids, we were never stressed about dieting because in Ireland we have this thing. It's called hunger. Stress is imaginary. It was created by some man who invented tissue paper. Ah, yeah, a bit of crying there is always nice, you know. Number 6. The best way to deal with stress in life is do what your cat does. Ignore it. Number 5. As a kid growing up, I used to fake depression and spent all day in bed. That way I never had to make the bed. I like that one, Dermot. I like that one a lot.
Get on with it, Seamus. Just get on with it.
I am getting on with it. Would you stop stressing me out? All right, number 4. If stress burned calories, I'd be as thin as a stick. Kind of am thin as a stick, actually, to be honest. I think it's the wife's cooking now. It's all those spuds. Number 3. I like this one. My mother inspired me to practice meditation when I was stressed. Yeah, she would say, shut up, sit down, and be quiet. And that was the meditation now when I was stressed. Number 2. What could possibly go wrong? I asked my brain. And he replied, I'm glad you asked. Divil that brain, the divil. All right, the number one thing you absolutely do not need to know about stress is this. The human body is 80% water. So we're basically stressed out cucumbers walking around the place. That was the top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about stress. I'm Seamus O'Brien, and that, my dear listeners, is No Blarney. Thanks very much, Seamus. Thank you. Very good stuff, Seamus. Good stuff. You're getting the hang of things over here. You're falling into line, Seamus. All right, that was Seamus O'Brien there, the token leprechaun of the show. And yes, they are real. I don't know if you just heard Seamus, didn't you? He's as real as any of the leprechauns in Ireland. All right, here's an interesting thing: reacting versus responding. Two men looked out from the prison bars. One saw the mud, and the other saw the stars. Reacting versus responding. We're talking about stress today. If you just joined us, welcome everyone. Celtic Coach Radio Show and Irish Talks are just for men. We're talking about reaction versus responding. Now, reaction is something that we do out of habit. Believe it or believe it not. And I don't mean the nun's habit, the hats, But reaction is something we do out of habit, or another way of saying that is conditioning. Most of the time, our reactions, they're not based on choice. Rather, they're some type of an automatic way of just interacting with the world. You don't believe me? When someone says something to you, you don't even think about your reaction. You just react right away. And if you look at the word react, it's act and then react. You do the same thing, you react, reenactment, you do the same thing over and over again, the same way each time. You react to a certain situation. So most of the time, our reactions are not based on choice. They're some type of an automatic interaction with the world. And it's automatic. It's not something that we think about. Now, response is slightly different. Response is something that we can, not always, but we can do out of choice. Response is taking the time to choose to reflect on a situation or problem differently and act accordingly. Now, what does that mean? It means that, now, are you going to be perfect? Something happens, the wife throws something at you or tells you you're in trouble. Do you not react? Of course, we all do. But if you can start in that moment, I'll give you a little coaching tip. It's called a point of view shift. And this is how it works. If in the moment you find, hey, I'm in reaction mode. If you can put the pause for a second and say, I'm in reaction mode, I've just, and how do you know if you're in reaction mode? You'll feel it in your body. Trust me. Your gut will twist. Your heart will start racing. Your pulse will be bopping. You'll be sweating beads, whatever it might be. We all know what it feels like. And in that moment, you hit the pause button or a few moments later. It's very hard to do it in the moment, but you can certainly do it a little bit, a few minutes after or half an hour later or whatever it might be. In the moment is always better, but doesn't always happen that way. And what you do is you do a point of view shift, which is that you pretend like you're floating above your body in your mind's eye, in your mind, and you are floating above your body and you're looking down at yourself, reacting to this situation. And what happens is you'll start to move from a reaction mode into a responding mode. It's really fascinating how it works. And all you have to do is just for a moment, hit the pause, see yourself floating above yourself, looking down. Are your arms folded? Are your legs folded? Are you angry? How does your face look? If I was to put a mirror in front of your face, would I start cracking up laughing? I probably would. So take a moment to hit the pause button. That is really, really important in terms of reacting versus responding. And there's only two motivating factors in life that we're ever responding to. One is love, and the other is fear. Yes, that fear. False evidence appearing real. Forget everything and run. Run, Forrest, run. All right, here's a little tip. Next time you're in a challenging situation, notice if you're in reaction or responding. And you'll notice it by how your body feels. Are you relaxed or are you tense? That's a really, really, really nice way to do it. Anything that worries you needs to be acted upon. If you're worried about something, take some action. Stop thinking about how bad the problem is and rather start thinking about how good the solution could be, might be, will be, can be. You got to be able to start switching the thoughts from this negative to here's the problem, it's causing stress, here's the problem, it's causing me worry, to what can I do about it? What can I do about it? What can I change? And sometimes it is an external thing. Sometimes it is an outside-in process. But for most, it's an inside-out process. No question about it. When we can take the time to stop, pause, look at the situation, and decide, you know what, I'm going to respond to this. And how do I want to respond to it? Great question. How do I want to respond to this? Wonderful question. JFK said, those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. We must be willing, gentlemen, to let go of the results of something that we have got going on in the world. This is what causes a lot of stress for men. Men, what causes a lot of stress is when we're doing something, doing, action, and it doesn't go right. Or we're expecting something to happen so that we can do an action step and it doesn't go right. We're fixing something, it doesn't go right. We can't fix our ladies, by the way. I've tried. It does not work. They just want you to listen, gentlemen. They don't want you to fix them. They're not like you can't take the toolbox out on your woman. I've tried. It doesn't work. But you've got to be willing to let go of the results of your actions. We've got to be willing to fail at something, to make a mistake in order to succeed. We've got to be willing to make mistakes. And you know, we need the mistakes, the mistakes, so that we can practice and make progress. A mistake is nothing more than just taking it. You've heard the old adage of mistakes are the portals of discovery. One of the things that causes a lot of stress and worry in the world is people are not willing to make mistakes. They're not willing to get it right. They're not willing to take action and have it be different than how they wanted to have it. So the second golden rule, be willing to make mistakes. Ask yourself, how could I bring a little more humor into making mistakes? How could I bring a little bit more humor into being stressed out about having, not enough money? How can I bring a little bit more humor into having this argument with my wife? How can I bring a little bit more humor into not having the greatest job in the world? Whatever it might be. How can I just relax and let go a little bit? See, when we relax and let go, when we bring a little more humor in, the stress all automatically just falls away. Don't ask me how it works, but I know it works. So here's some questions. Be willing to make mistakes. How can I bring some more humor into making mistakes? What might be one way that I can look at this in a positive way? So when something goes wrong, gentlemen, a great question. We always ask, oh, this is a negative thing, and why did this happen to me, right? Anytime we want to cause stress to ourselves or worry, we say, why did this happen to me? Oh, I'm a good person. Good things shouldn't happen to good people. Bad things shouldn't happen to good people. They do. It's called life. Get on with it. Ask yourself, what might be one way that I can look at this differently? What might be one way that I can look at this in a positive way? I know there's that positive thing when we really want to just focus on the negative, because it's a learned habit. What can I learn from this? Great question. What can I learn from this? How can I use this feedback to become even greater? How can I use this feedback to be a little bit lighter? How can I use this feedback, which is what mistakes, which is what stress is? Stress is feedback. It's saying, hey, you're trying to control something that you can't control. You're trying to control something that you have no control over. That's why you're stressed. Now, after all that, my dear girls and boys, there are no mistakes, only Value-added feedback that you can use to improve your life. Mistakes are the portals of discovery. It's value-added feedback. VAF, I like to call it. But you got to be willing to make mistakes. All right, so let's recap. We've talked about less worrying, less stress. We talked about asking ourselves some questions around, how can I look at this differently? We talked about the power of positive talk. We talked about reacting versus responding. Two men looked out from the prison bars. One saw the mud and the other saw the stars. Which one are you? And most of us see the mud, and that includes myself. I'm not preaching here stuff that I'm perfect. I'm by no means perfect. Just ask anyone who knows me. But I have trained myself over the years to start to come from an inside-out perspective, an inside-out way of looking at things. How can I look at this? How can I feel about this differently? How can I experience this differently? Right? We talked about a little bit of a point of view shift, floating above yourself, looking down, seeing the thing differently. We talked about mistakes. How can we be willing to make mistakes? As JFK says, those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. We've got to be willing to let go of the results. Not an easy thing for men. It's really not an easy thing for men to let go of the results. But can you soften it? Even if you don't let go of the results, can you soften it? Hey, this may or may not turn out the way I want it. But you know what? However it turns out, I'm going to be okay with it. My head won't explode. My legs won't fall off. I'll be okay with the result. I can live with it. Whatever that happens. Ask yourself some questions. How can I bring some more humor into making mistakes? What might be one way that I can look at this differently? What might be one way that I can look at this in a positive way? What can I learn from this? How can I use this as feedback to grow, to expand, to explore, to discover something new about myself? You see, we have all these beliefs, gentlemen, that we believe this and we believe that. And you know what a belief is? A belief is nothing more than a thought that you keep thinking. But yet it's interesting because beliefs are the thing that control how we sort information, how we file information, every bit of our life data, all beliefs. So we'll be coming from beliefs, and we talked about in the show earlier, our values, these things that are intrinsic. Everything we see, experience, think, and feel is adjusted to fit our beliefs. So maybe from an inside-out perspective, we could simply ask ourselves, how could I soften this belief? How could I bring a little more humor into this belief? I have a belief that I'm not a good person, or that I'm a piece of crap, or I don't have any confidence, or I can't create a great life, or I'm terrible with money. I hear that one a lot in my coaching sessions. So, and these are all beliefs, by the way. They're just beliefs. They're just thoughts that you keep thinking. And we talked about earlier that the problem is not the thinking is not the problem. It's your thinking about your thinking that's the problem. You have a thought, I'm not good with money. And then you start thinking, yeah, I'm really not good with money. And you start thinking about that thinking. You start thinking about that thought. And then all of a sudden, you're in a spiral. You're in the little mouse ring. And you're just going around and around and around. And around we go around the planet. All right. Ever had a flat tire? Are you a pessimist or an optimist? Do you look at the flat tire and go, no problem. I'm glad I didn't crash the car. Being an optimist. Or are you a pessimist? Oh, flat tire. Here's another thing that's just totally messed up and that I can't do right in my life. So do you use, gentlemen, what happens to you in life, do you use it to judge yourself? And put yourself in that cage? Or do you use it to explore a greater opportunity, a greater possibility, a bigger self? See, a belief is not an idea held by the mind. It's an idea that holds the mind. An idea is not held by the mind. It is an idea that holds your mind. And what I mean holds your mind in a cage. So from time to time, gentlemen, our beliefs, they need to be upgraded. They need to be introspected on. They need to be explored, and they need to be changed in a way that support us to start to move in a direction that you want to go. Because if you don't change those beliefs, gentlemen, from the inside out, not changing the world, changing the world, we can get rid of Donald Trump and everyone will breathe a sigh of relief until the next president comes in, and we'll be moaning and going on about the next president because he or she is not this and not that and blah, blah, blah. The world is not going to change for us. That's a hard one, but it's the truth. We've got to change for ourselves, and doing that, it will change the world. No question about it. No question about it. So some other ways to reframe beliefs from a negative to positive. You ask yourself, what do you notice about your beliefs? Write down your beliefs. Which ones help you? Which ones support you to move forward? And which ones are demotivating you? In coaching, we have this thing called motivational words. And one of the words that when I'm beating myself up, when I take out the judgment hammer and I'm clonking, I'm knocking myself over the head with the judgment hammer, which I do on a daily basis, by the way. I'm not perfect. I may be good looking and got a great accent, but I'm not perfect. And I take out the judgment hammer I wouldn't say daily, but every few days. It used to be every minute of every day back in my 30s. In my 40s now, I'm a little more wiser. I've made different choices. So when you're wanting to reframe a negative to a positive, ask yourself, what do I notice about my beliefs? Which ones are supporting me to move forward, and which ones are putting me in reverse? Which ones are helping me to grow, and which ones are just beating the hell out of myself with? Write down your motivational words. Words like, should, could, would, can. And see what words, like for me, a motivational word is dare. When I dare myself to do something, I'll usually do it because it's a motivational word for me. It moves me from the negative, from stress, into positive, into possibility. How often, gentlemen, do you make a mountain out of a molehill? That's moving from stress into more stress. But if you can move out of that molehill out of the mountain and make it a molehill by simply asking a different question. How could I change a belief around this? How could I change a thought around this? Beliefs are nothing but thoughts that you just keep thinking. So in order to change, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to be willing to ask ourselves different questions. You see, we develop and we create our personal beliefs about reality based on how we interpret the world around us, according to our observations and experiences, both past and present. Everything we see in the world, experience, think, and feel is always adjusted to fit our beliefs. And if our beliefs are so rigid, that causes stress. If we're looking at things that we cannot control, that causes stress. So you got to ask yourself a different question. What is everything I've been saying today leading up to? It's leading up to this. When you ask yourself a different question, you'll get a different response. When you ask yourself a different question, you'll get a different belief. When you get a different belief, you will get a different level of discovery, and the stress goes down, and the possibilities go up. As I said earlier, from time to time, our beliefs, they need to be challenged, they need to be introspected on, and they need to be changed and upgraded. So if we're not willing to change our beliefs, which is an inside-out perspective, we're waiting on the world to make us happy, we're waiting on Trump to make us happy, we're waiting on the economy to make us happy. And by the way, I've done all of those things. And you'll be waiting a really, really long time. If you're waiting for till tomorrow to be happy, you're going to be waiting for a long, trust me on that one. Trust me on that one. I had a time in my life at 30, my whole life just fell apart. And when I say fell apart, I mean it fell apart. I moved to LA when I was 30. And LA is one of those places you either grow or go. You know what I mean? LA is a tough environment. And I moved from being in beautiful mountains in Aspen, Colorado, living on at 12,000 feet took care of a restaurant, managed the restaurant for the Aspen Ski Company, and had the life of a Riley. No worries, no stress, no nothing. It was all just good. And when I went to LA, my whole life fell apart because I got into some really stressful situations around money and self-development, a lot of old stuff, beliefs that pain, hurt that I just, bottled down, came up. And so this has got me into this whole self-development movie, which is so interesting. I was on my road to becoming a professional actor, and I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad I went down this road. It's been a more fulfilling and serviceful occupation. I'm really glad that my life did fall apart, although I wasn't glad at the time. It was a year of hell, and then it took me quite a few years to just dig myself up and bring myself, pull myself back up by the bootstraps. But it is worth it, gentlemen. But we got to start with our beliefs. We got to start with the questions that we're asking ourselves. Ask a better question, you'll get a better answer. Ask a terrible question, and you'll get a terrible answer. Ask yourself a great question, and you'll get a great, great answer. Now, you might say, well, what's the benefit of negativity or positivity, in terms of our emotions? Here's the deal. It's human. It's human. It promotes authenticity. It allows you to genuinely be who you are when you start to focus on the positive. It allows you to be realistic about your situations when you start to say, what can I do here? What is this situation teaching me? It's a great thing to be able to look at something very logically. Now, emotions, by the way, gentlemen, you cannot look at them logically. I've tried, it doesn't work. People say, times are tough for everyone. But the balanced view, the guy who's learned something, views it as, it could also be tougher. Or without tough times, there could be no good times. Or the tough times make the good times even sweeter. Now, I'm not saying there aren't tough times, but did you hear the difference in there? Tough times are everywhere and it's hard for everyone. Yeah, tough times are everywhere. But without tough times, there can be no good times. Or the tough times make the good times even sweeter. I can tell you that. So we got to be willing to ask ourselves different questions to get different answers. Whew. Did I tell you I love this stuff? I just love it. I had cataract surgery this week on my eye. And when I went in, I was feeling very bummed about it because I went in, my eye was all weird and not in a good way. And I went in and the doctor says, your eye's had it. You got a major cataract in there. He says, you got to have surgery on that right away. And the first thing out of my mouth was, why did this happen to me? Me, I'm such a good person, and I've got a great accent. And bodaciously good looking. Why do bad things happen to good people? And then afterwards I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, Dermot? It's pretty cool that you just got health insurance about a month ago. Because now you don't have to pay for this $4,000 operation that's going to happen here in the next few days. And I thought to myself, what else can I be grateful for about this? I got a couple of days off work. I got to sit at home, play my guitar, write some stuff. I took a break from the computer. That was really great, just not looking at the computer for 2 days. That was absolutely wonderful. I got to do some extra reading that I hadn't done in quite a while with one eye, with my right eye. Got to clean up the house. Not that it's dirty, but I had to clean up the house. I got to spend some extra time outside just in the sun, watching the grass, feeding the birds. I got these really cool shades that I look like Terminator in the 1980s. Those dark black glasses that he had. I got to understand that when people are going through a surgery, they're going through different things, support is good. I got the opportunity to call some friends and say, hey, I can't drive myself to this operation, and I've got like 3 different, post-op examinations that I've got to go. Would you mind driving me there? Never a big fan on asking for help. But I reached out and I asked some friends, and they said, yeah, really grateful that you asked, Dermot. It's been a while since we've talked. Let me pick you up and we'll go for a cup of tea and then, hang out afterwards if you want. I got to stretch. I got to grow. They say when one door closes, another one opens. Now, by the way, that's not happy hour in Ireland when one door closes, another opens. Although it could be, now that I think about it. But it's really about asking yourselves different questions, looking at something in a different way. And I even got a joke out of it. I'm instead of the cyborg in my house, I'm now called the iBorg. My girlfriend calls me the iBorg. It's created some laugh between us. So she's gotten to be even more caring and loving, which is very hard. And I mean that because she's already those things. I didn't know she could be even more. And I got to allow myself to be cuddled a little bit, cradled a little bit. That was nice. As a man, I was like, oh, just leave me alone. Just let me go into my cave and lick my wounds. But the little ladies are out there, gentlemen, for that. They love that stuff. So let them cradle you. Let them fuss over you. They love it. And I allowed my little lady to do that. So there's always a gift in the storm, gentlemen. I've seen it in my life many times. Many, many times. Gone through a lot of stuff in the past year. Physical stuff. And there's always been a gift in it. But the only way to get the gift, the only way to see the gift, the only way to feel the gift, the only way to experience something different is from the inside out. When we don't expect the world to change for us, when we don't expect people to change for us, when we don't expect persons, places, or things to change for us, but we change for ourselves, and in that, it changes the outside. But we've got to be willing to ask ourselves some better questions. Now, does it mean that life is easy? No. Life is not easy. Difficult, yes. Complicated, no. But it can be difficult at times. And one of the things in terms of stress and worry is being able to ask ourselves some different questions. Now, I've seen it in my life, from my 20s to my 30s. I've had a lot of different physical stuff go on in my body, and you name it, I've had it. I've done it. And yet, everything in my life, it always comes back to questions, asking myself questions, reflecting on, how do I want to look at this? Do I want to look at it as do I want to be a worrier, or do I want to be a warrior about that? And it's not about sucking it up, gentlemen, taking out the sword and chopping everything that comes in front of us. But it's asking ourselves some warrior-like questions. We as men, we want to be warriors. We want to be warriors for our women. We don't want to be worriers for our women, do we? I mean, some of us may, but most of us don't. We want to show up as the man. We want to show up as the warrior. The enlightened warrior, the gentle warrior, the wisdom-filled warrior. We got to be able to start to change our perspectives about things. Don't wait for the world to change, gentlemen. Trust me on that one. Don't wait for the world to change. Don't wait for people to change. You change. Change the way you think about things. Change the way you think about yourself. Change the way you talk to yourself. Change the way you feel about yourself by changing your beliefs. Focus on value. What am I getting from this? What can I give from this? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? I'm not going to get spiritual on you, but I have to say, if there's a meaning to life, it's to grow from whatever happens. Can't say I know the absolute meaning of life, but I know that one thing that I've learned over the years is to grow from whatever happens. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is not to grow. The alternative is to be miserable. You go to the end of your life and you ask yourself, you look back, you can do it right now. Go to your end of your life and look back. Pretend it's the end of your life, it's 100 years in the future. You're sitting on the bed and you're looking back on your life. Will you say that, hey, I'm so glad that I stressed out about nothing? Or that I worried all the time about everything? Stressed about nothing, worried about everything, and couldn't control any of it. Or are you going to look back on your life and you're going to say, wow, I lived, I took life on, I did the best I could, I raised some kids, I helped out some people, I made this planet a little bit better than when I found it. Maybe that's the meaning to life, I don't know. Just to leave the planet in a little bit better way that you found it. I served a few people. I gave what I could when I could. And I grew a little bit. I grew emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And maybe I even inspired a few people. Not by stressing out or being worried, but maybe I inspired a few people through my actions, by asking myself different questions, changing my belief structure, adding value to myself, to others, to the community, to the planet, by adding value to my own thoughts, to my own beliefs. And maybe I was a little kinder to myself or a little nicer to myself. And I realized that as I was being nicer to myself, I could be nicer to others. Because maybe I realized that I cannot give away what I don't have or what I don't give myself. And so maybe I was a little kinder to myself and learned how to be kinder to others. I didn't do my life perfectly, but I made some progress. And I always pointed my car, my truck, my bicycle, my direction into the direction that I wanted to go. It didn't always work out the way I wanted it to. Maybe I didn't always get what I wanted, but maybe I got what I needed. And maybe there was something guiding the world, my life. I'm the Celtic Coach. You've been listening to the Celtic Coach radio show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS.FM, live every Friday from 1 to 3. Gentlemen, have a great life. Make it a great life. Cheers. Have fun. And as they say, that's No Blarney.